Hello. Hello, everyone. So I'll start by welcoming you all to the first NextOcean webinar. This will be an introductory webinar on what NextOcean is, what it will try to be. Let me share my screen here. Have a short introduction to NextOcean. Okay, so as you can see, we have already set up the webpage of the project, the Twitter and the LinkedIn account. So I invite you right from the start to check this regularly and to follow us in social media. The NextOcean project is an H 2020 and a Horizon 2020 project, which started this year as part to the call to the open tender on competitors market update. The project started in May this year, so we're just kickstarting the activities. We just kickstarted the activities in the last few months, and the focus is on commercial services for sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. It's a 3.6 million budget project with 7 countries and several institutions ranging from commercial to R&D, public authorities, non-profits, and commercial entities. So we have on the R&D side, we have several institutions, both universities and research centers. We have public authorities on fisheries and agriculture side, non-profits, and several companies that will push to have the services and the algorithms available to a wider audience on a commercial or eventually possibly commercial or non-commercial side. We are proposing initially 4 user scenarios. So the first one is the monitoring of fishing activities and the impact of fishing activities. The second one is on sustainable trade, ecolabelling, and minimization of bycatch for fisheries. The third one is aquaculture monitoring. The fourth one is the setup of new aquaculture, but this is a starting point of the project. As you'll see later, we will be very closely involved with users, and the scenarios will evolve and will evolve together with the needs of the users and as we get feedback from them. An overall picture of the project is that we have the 4 user scenarios on top, and these are addressed with a set of services, which we call the first ones we call end user services. So these are integrated in dedicated user portals. So as you'll see, we have the fisheries monitoring and surveillance service, characterization fishing areas, fish provenance and eco-labeling, site risk assessment, fish farm impacts, and monitoring aquaculture sites. So this is what we call the end user services, and they'll be integrated in an easy to understand and easy to deal with a user portal. These are basically the front ends of a set of lower level services, what we call the micro-geo services. We have the 6 services here, and these are based on what we call the micro-geo services. So these are services which are automated as much as possible, which range from human-assisted detection to correlation by physical parameters and so on. These services, it's what I will, so the micro-geo services, the smaller components or the Lego bricks of the user services. I'm giving you some examples here. So this is, for example, detection of fishing cages, where you can use optical and SAR data for the detection of fishing cages, where you see here the large images and SAR, and the other ones are optical imagery. You have the automatic chip detection and identification, where you can use, again, so especially SAR, so synthetic aperture radar, but also other sources like automatic vessel identification. So AIS data, you can correlate, will correlate several sources for ship detection and identification. But we also use satellite sources and in situ sources for assessing the pollution and potential pollution and actual pollution from fish farms. This has several impacts, especially on tourism, on water quality, and so on. And again, we'll provide these sources of data in an easy to use and accessible geoportal tailored for the users of each of the 4 use cases that we are addressing. So as I mentioned before, so this is the overall cycle or methodology that we'll be using, which stems from an initial set of services, then which will be evolved in co-design with the users, then adaptation to the user's needs, technology to market transfer, then dissemination, and again, we will continue this loop throughout the project, throughout the 36 months of the project, and even afterwards. We'll continue this loop of gathering feedback and improving the services, and eventually adding other additional services to the mix. This is the overall timeline of the project. So this is 36 months. We have these reporting periods are administrative periods, but we have a first setup phase in the first year, and then we have the evolution in the second and third years. So the important events here for the user and potential user community will be the workshops that we will have. We'll have 5 workshops at least during the project timeline, 1 in the first year, a few in the second year, and a final one. And we have the webinars. We are starting with the first one here. So we have several webinars, 3 per year at least, during the project lifetime. And we will have in the second half of the project what we call the capacity building and sales workshops. So these are workshops or events dedicated to specific users, which will be spread out to several locations in close to the users, and we will explain the services and explain the way how to use the services that we will be providing. So do get in touch with us. Do get in touch too. You can access our contact points through the webpage or through the social media. Do get in touch with us, and we'll be looking forward to meeting you and to assessing what are your needs and your interests in NextOcean. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nuno, and for that overview of NextOcean. Just before passing it over to Peter, I'll do a bit of so in the next presentation, Peter Miller will do an overview of the co-design process, an introduction to the co-design process that will be used in the NextOcean project that will be implemented throughout the project timeline. And then Don Ashby, also from the Plymouth Marine Lab, would guide us through a bit how to become part of this NextOcean history that we're now starting to write. I call your attention to the message that I just put in the chat there. If you have any question, put them in the chat. Identify yourself and to whom you are directing that question. And in the last slot of the webinar, we'll be going over those different questions and trying to answer them. And now pass it over to Peter.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. And in my section, I will talk about the co-design aspects of NextOcean, which is quite different to traditional projects where you want to design services, and I'll tell you all about that. So I'm hoping this will be an interactive session. And firstly, what I'll do is introduce you to the concept of co-design, and then how we're going to use that to get the information that we need to make NextOcean successful for you and as a project. And I'll tell you about the first of the activities that we would be doing with end users, this co-design workshop. So to make it interactive, there's possibly the best way is if you have your mobile phone, you can use the QR code, or if you have a side of your screen to start a different window, if you can go to this Slido link. So you can either click on the link that I put in the chat, or you can use the QR code, or you can type in slido.com and enter the number when it asks you. So what you should get, firstly, it should show nothing, but when I go to next slide, it should pop up and it's now asking you, in which country do you work? So just to get the ball rolling, that will give us an idea of who we're talking to today and whereabouts. It's nice that some people are looking beyond their country and global. So I'll just leave that for a couple of seconds. I've just got a couple of interactive questions to ask you as we go through these few minutes of my talk. I can see that there's lots of people from Portugal. That's we're well represented there, with at least 10 votes coming from Portugal. So yeah, this is good because it tells us that the people that have joined us today outside of our project are also based in the same countries that our project partners are from. So we will know quite a lot about your regional, national issues. So I'll move on to the next question now. This one's a bit more complex. If you can give an idea of what your business areas are, there's several choices here, and you can vote for multiple choices here. So if you click several, I think there's a submit button at the end where you can say what aspects of these business areas you work in. So and you can see on the screen that we've got a real-time update of what people are voting for here. I can also say that with the COVID situation as it is, the first workshop will be partly in person, partly hybrid, and it's these kind of tools, interactive voting, interactive brainstorming, that we'll be using in place of the normal flip charts and everything. So so there's quite a few people from Earth observation. That's good. Ocean sciences, aquaculture and fisheries are our key areas. And then below that, oh, I can't scroll. Yes, I can. Yeah. So as we go down the screen, you can see that almost all of the areas I put on the list are represented here. Now, that's really nice to know. So thanks for your votes on that. Now, let's give you a quick introduction to co-design. You may not have come across this before because it's a concept that's growing in popularity. So what we're doing with this project, this is not specific to NextOcean, but the idea is that there's lots of stakeholders here around the project in different customer bases, different industries. And if we can involve as many as we can, not just at the end when we have a product ready to sell, to market, but throughout the project, then we will get a much better end product that meets those end users' needs. So we won't be developing a service on behalf of end users, but with those users. And yeah, it's obviously beneficial to share the experiences and the skills of those end users. So the process can be summarized in these 4 sections. Firstly, to engage with those users, understand where you're coming from, which industries, which roles you have, and then explain our challenge, which is to design novel and beneficial services based on satellite data for the maritime industries. So we then understand from each of you what your needs are, gather insights as we go through that workshop. Hopefully some ideas will come out of that workshop that are not already provided by existing services. So, and we can then build those concepts into prototypes. Once we have a conceptual idea of what services you would like, then we can present them back to the whole group, see if they make sense, see if they are practical, feasible for us to develop, and then we can prioritize our work in the project towards those goals. So there's many benefits of doing this co-design. Firstly, to make it relevant to the users and their needs. Secondly, to bring different stakeholders together from different industries and different roles so that we can share that experience. Hopefully it will motivate both the stakeholders to stay involved because they can see their needs being met by the services that are going to come out, and also it will motivate us as a project because we will be heavily involved in that engagement. We hope this will make the project more efficient, that we don't go down a wrong alley of developing something that's not useful. And the results should give us that kind of differentiated service that would be different to our competitors and would be something that people will be willing to pay for. So now I've told you a bit about the co-design process. If I take you back to the scenarios that Nuno touched on before, there's these 4 scenarios that we are focusing on: monitoring fishing activities, aquaculture as well, site selection for new aquaculture, and this idea of sustainable trade, ecolabelling, avoiding bycatch, and those are implemented as services along those lines. So these are the services that we believe will be some of the key ones, but that's not limiting us if during the co-design process there's related ideas that are not quite within these boxes. So what we will then need from our stakeholders is to know what their unsolved problems are, what limitations do people have with their existing services and providers. What are the aspects that you would like us to develop? And we can imagine that some of those aspects will be different for different types of users and also different regions around the world. We're focusing initially on the countries that we know most about, but we already know that some of our users will be wanting to have services focused on other areas around the world. So here's the final question. Now that you know a little bit about NextOcean and the co-design, this is not obviously a co-design workshop now, but to give you a taste of the kind of questions that we might ask in that process, and to give us a flavor of the kind of needs that you might be looking for, if you can jot down any aspects of your work where you think that the satellite services in NextOcean could make a difference to your work. So it could be like a problem that you deal with regularly, frequently. It might be some improvement to an aspect of your satellite data that you would like us to explore. Yeah, you can put in as many ideas as you like. Don't be afraid. This is anonymous at this stage. You can dream about, what would be an ideal kind of service that would help with the fisheries or aquaculture industry. There might be a long-standing risk from the environment or from other users of the marine environment that we would be able to help with. That's great. We've got a couple of thoughts coming through the Slido now. I think yeah, I'll just pause there for a minute in case there's more coming through. Perhaps I think when I leave this slide, oh, that's great. We've got some ideas coming through, and indeed we could talk about some of these in the questions after the last talk. That's great. Toxic algae. Oops. Right, so your Slido may have stopped now, but if I go to next slide, but I'll leave. What I'll do is I'll reopen that question just in case you want to continue putting in your answers there. You shouldn't have lost any half-written answers. They should still be there. So finally, let me tell you about our activity, which is a co-design workshop. And the first one of these will be on the 20th of January, so early next year. And what we're doing, as imagined in this diagram, is we're going to have it a hybrid meeting where there will be some in-person centres in the partner countries, and we will link those together through a Zoom, multi-centre video conference, so that we hope to benefit from that kind of unique interaction that you only get face to face, obviously with a safely set up space for enough space for everyone, but also allowing key stakeholders to engage with us virtually as well. And we would do interactive sessions, exploring the needs of end users. And we will use tools like this that can be workable online as well, where we can make mind maps and post-it notes and share those with each other online. So we hope to have several places around Europe where you can actually travel and meet with us in person, as well as the online, which obviously won't be ideal, but where it's not possible for people to travel, then that would be the best option. So we would like to invite people to this, and if there's people at this webinar who are interested in being part of this process, Dawn will tell you how to connect with us, and we can then invite you to be part of this. So thanks so much for your attention, and thanks for engaging with that interactive survey. I'll now pass back to Nuno, or on to directly to Dawn. Let me just stop my screen there.
Thanks, Peter. We'll pass it over to Dawn Ashby. But so related, there's already a question that was posed, and Jean-Pierre, feel free to. You can use the Slido. We were thinking of using the chat here in in the Zoom for the questions, but you can also use the Q&A there in the Slido. I'll be monitoring those and passing along those questions. So you can use both entries, both the Slido and the chat here to pose your questions. Nuno Katerina already replied the question from Jean-Pierre, but we'll be dealing with those after the presentation from Don. Don, up to you.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Peter. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this co-design workshop is going to work. So I'm Dawn Ashby, and I work at Plymouth Marine Laboratory in the UK, and I'm responsible for the communications and outreach aspects of the NextOcean project. So I'd just like to talk to you today about how you can get involved with the project and really become part of our NextOcean story. So we want NextOcean to be a two-way conversation, so that we can use our expertise in Earth observation to develop services that are really needed for sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. We want to provide practical solutions that really work for our users, that fit in and complement their existing practices. But we can only do this by understanding your needs and working with you. So please keep in touch with us by following and interacting with us on social media. At present, we're using Twitter and LinkedIn, but we'll certainly consider adding more platforms if there proves to be a need in the future. I would also love to see some of our future NextOcean events. So what's next for NextOcean, and how can you get involved? We've got a wide range of events planned, as actually Nuno has already said about some of them. And it's great that you're here with us at the beginning of the project, so you can really help to shape our services, and that we can work together to find the best possible solutions for sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. Peter's already described the co-development workshops, and we'll also keep this webinar series running right throughout the project. There'll also be a series of hackathons where you can use our services to find solutions to real-world problems. And in the later stage of the project, we'll hold workshops to provide training for users. So the aim of a webinar series is really to tell the story of NextOcean, of how we co-develop services for sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. We hope they'll attract a really wide audience and that we can use them as an opportunity to invite people to get involved with forthcoming events. So here we are at our first webinar, where we introduce the concept of NextOcean. The next webinar, early next year, will be where we showcase our initial product. And this will be followed by a webinar where we'll demonstrate the benefits of our services with some use cases and present the findings of the co-design process. Next, we'll talk about commercialization of services and maybe focus on some interviews with users. The next two webinars will demonstrate the capabilities of the first and the second versions of NextOcean. And finally, we'll talk about how we're going to keep NextOcean services running into the future beyond the funding that we've received from Horizon 2020. So hackathons are engaging events where we really aim to bring users close to our applications. And during hackathons, users take part in solving a problem using our services, and this should really enable them to extract insights or decisions from the data. We also expect that hackathons will be really a perfect opportunity for us to see firsthand how users engage with our tools and for us to gain real valuable feedback on how we can improve them. At present, we've got sessions planned for summer next year, which we expect will be held online, and also in the summer of 2023, which we sincerely hope we'll be able to hold in person. Later in the project, we'll be holding workshops with the aim of providing training to increase the technical capabilities of our service users. These will intend hands-on experience of using the services, and we plan to hold them in person at multiple locations, so to provide easy access for all of our users. There'll be two phases of workshops. The first phase will provide training on the first iteration of NextOcean, and this will enable us to gain feedback on the prototype. These will be held early in 2023. And the second phase of workshops will consist of training on version 2. These will really focus on bespoke training for real key stakeholders. And this will be held right towards the end of the project, starting in late 2023. So finally, I'd just like to invite you to keep informed of our progress. If you'd like to be added to our mailing list, you can either message me over the Zoom chat with your email address. Please feel free to add any more details about your area of interest, or sign up via the contact form on our website. Like Peter said, if you're interested in attending the co-design workshop in January that Peter spoke about, please just put co-design into the message and we'll get back in touch with you. So again, please follow us and interact with us on social media, and we really hope to see you at another NextOcean event soon. And right, I'll hand you back to Nuno for some questions.
Thanks so much, Don, for the presentation and how to link with NextOcean. What is the roadmap for NextOcean in the next month, year? So indeed, thanks to all presenters, to Nuno Catarino, the project manager of NextOcean, and to Peter Miller, who is managing the co-design process, for giving us this overview of NextOcean and to giving us a first glimpse into NextOcean and what expects us in the next year. We have one question that was posed by Jean-Pierre Kozak. I don't know if you are here, if you want to pose the question yourself, but the question was, Nuno Catarino already replied in between, but maybe Nuno Catarino would like to elaborate on that. The question was, are you producing Earth observation services or consuming ER services, or both? So Nuno, I don't know if you want to pick that up.
Yes, I can pick it up. So basically, what I mentioned in the reply. So we're doing both. So basically, what we're doing is using Earth observation services, existing services, and providing a value-added service on top of that, where we get several data or services outputs together, and provide added facilities for the user to understand the information and to feed the information into their existing decision-making processes. So I gave you examples of several baseline services that we can use, that we are using, and we put them together to provide a better image of the specific situation for the user.
Thanks, Nuno. We don't have any other question in the chat, but right now we do have some time to go over them. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question or put it in the chat, please feel free to do so.
I'll pick up on also on a comment by Peter, which is to mention the co-design in the context form. Basically, the goal, and this is what Peter has been explaining, the goal of the co-design is to make the services fit the user's needs. So we will be we have the resources to basically comply with the wish list, let's say, of for dedicated users, even if the requirements or the wishes are a bit outside of what we're initially intending. I'm quite sure the services will evolve a lot during the project lifetime. So don't be shy in asking for stuff.
Thanks, Nuno. So I'll wait a bit to see if anyone wants to. Okay, we had an answer from Jean-Pierre. Thank you, Nuno. In fact, the question was for the audience, not for Demus or the consortium. Okay. So basically, it was basically to understand who is seeing this webinar. Yeah. So indeed, that was part of the interaction from Slido that Peter kind of brought us through. But Peter, maybe you can take it over.
Yeah. So I think Jean-Pierre is asking the audience to type into the chat whether you are yourselves involved in using EO services or providing them. That would be interesting for us to know. While you're doing that, I could just share my screen to show you the answers that have been put in on the kind of things that might make a difference to your work. So there's a few more. I did at the top. So for instance, high resolution information for lagoons where there's aquaculture activities. So certainly we're fully in touch with the satellite sensor developers and the algorithms and products that come out of those. So we'll be in a good position to provide the best quality and specification of satellite data as that is made available. Currently, for water quality applications, we look towards the Copernicus data streams, for instance, Sentinel-3, which gives us 300-meter resolution on water quality. We can also get some useful information from Sentinel-2, and that's 10 or 30-meter resolution, so certainly applicable for lagoons where we'd be able to give some indication of the sediment loads and the plankton growth. But yeah, currently it's 300 meters that gives us the best quality of color information. So real-time operational solution. Yes, we can certainly look towards communication in real time to fishing activities. That's already aspects we're looking at, whether that's I'm not sure quite here whether you're involved in fishing yourself or whether you're interested in monitoring those fishing activities. But yeah, these issues can be clarified as we go through the co-design process. Feel free to contact us if you want to clarify that in the chat or just turn your mic on.
Just for that specific context, maybe. So one of the services that we have for fish provenance, which also pops up in the next one, is dealing with trying to understand patterns from IES data, so communication data that could be near real time, or it is the nature of it. It's near real time, so that could give us some insight on the real time operational solution for monitoring fishing activities. So hopefully we are going in that direction, and I would be very happy if you can help us guide us to the solution that will answer your questions. So what Peter mentioned about contacting us holds.
Yeah. So yeah, if anyone would like to talk about any of the aspects that we've spoken about today, please raise your hand or turn your microphone on, or yes, give us a question. So going through this interesting list. So characterization of water masses. We have techniques for looking at ocean fronts, and probably we can look at currents. Yeah, toxic algae is one thing we are looking at. You can identify some species of high biomass algae from satellite, so that can be of value to aquaculture farms. Some of the partners already work with fish farms and aquaculture, shellfish farms, with those aspects. Digital twin ocean. Yes, this is certainly gaining a lot of interest, the idea of digital twins. So that's quite, I'd see that as towards the research end, but that can be something that we might be able to bridge between services and research, as you say, because that would expand the reach. That's an interesting suggestion here. And yeah, there could be research outcomes from the data and the products that we can provide. And so yeah, it's important we don't ignore other types of users of this data. So it's not just commercial, there might be research users too. We cannot see the other answers on the polls. Oh yes, so if you'd like me to step back to the other answers, that one was frozen with these are the countries that were typed in, but yeah, perhaps you're talking about this one. Why is that still blue? Never mind. So yeah, so we have a clear focus, presumably from the social media reach of our communication, a clear win for Earth observation in the business areas here. But yeah, a good coverage of aquaculture and fisheries, And then consulting is an important aspect where you would be an ideal person and group of industries for us to engage with, because consultants bridge between the service providers and the customers. So you would have a very clear idea of what services people are asking for, what they need, and we already have a few end users on in mind for that role, but we'd be very keen to hear from consultants in this industry. That would be very valuable for the co-design activities. So there, I'll stop sharing there, and if there's more, please feel free to chat. And Nuno,
we do have a question from, and I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly, Aken. What will be the typical frequency of updates of images? To what degree will we be able to resolve the position of structures within dimensions lower than 100 meters? So I'm thinking that this is directed mostly to aquaculture structures, where this plays a very good role.
Yeah, I can probably give an answer for that one, because I know something about the SAR data that we've been using, radar data we've been using to address this, determining the location of structures offshore that can be aquaculture, and they can be oil platforms, anything that's stationary in the water that we can distinguish from vessels and everything that's moving. So we have resolved structures, small aquaculture structures in the Philippines, for instance, that are of the order of 10 meters. So we do have some experience of that, so to get quite accurately. And of course, we can, with the satellite records, we can determine the changes over time, because with a few months of data from one year, and then for the next year, we can see if aquaculture structures are proliferating in the desired way or an undesirable way, which might be counter to the marine conservation measures in that country. So yeah, we can monitor that. In terms of typical frequency of updates, so if you're talking about aquaculture structures, then that would be the kind of aspect that we would want to discuss. Would the service be useful if it was every year, or would it be better? Are you likely to want to know about changes that happen month by month? So we could update that monthly. There's some services that would be updating data every day. You know, if you're talking about detecting vessels that might be involved in illegal fishing, then that would be updated as soon as we get the satellite data. So yeah, feel free to turn your microphone on if you'd like to clarify that, Hakon.
Oh, thanks a lot, Peter and Nuno, for answer here. Yeah, I'm kind of looking for the applications here, as you understand. I'm not into the satellite area myself, but more on the structural side. So, of course, one application could be some kind of alarm system for mooring failure. You know, of course they have GPS and so on, but they have uncertainties, and you often need redundancy on the failure side.
Yes.
So a daily update would at least be needed, if not more often. Yeah, and the resolution is also very interesting to see whether you have drift off and so on, which could be an early trigger signal for alarms. You know, could be several things that can have happened.
Yeah, that's an interesting application that we've not discussed yet. So yeah, we can make use of color information where it's not when it's not cloudy and when it's daytime, and then radar data, which can work through clouds and through nighttime as well. And those data, the kind of data that we can get readily and then add value to it, those data around kind of 10 to 20 meter resolution. We might get data every few days, but then there's more commercial sources of radar data that can be purchased on behalf of a client that can fill in the gaps, so that you should be able to get daily updates for a targeted application like that, and then we'd be able to focus part of the service in that direction.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for answers, because I don't think the aquaculture industry is very aware of the possibility to use this. It's quite high tech for a lot of the aquaculture industry. Yeah. So I don't think they're aware of the possibilities. Another question I also like to ask is waves. I mean, to what degree can these services be used for measuring waves? Because in complex shorelines, it's a bit tricky to get real good estimates of waves.
Yeah, that's not exactly my technical area, but I'm aware of, again, radar data that can give you reasonable accuracy on significant wave heights, and then beyond that, there's operational forecasting models that can be applied to give prior warning of stronger waves, or perhaps you're looking at kind of a climatology to know for a particular site the range of wave heights that can be expected at a given site. Maybe if you're selecting sites that those are all possible. And yeah, this was definitely one aspect of the aquaculture monitoring service that we were envisaging. So it's good to know from you that would be of interest. Certainly we can explore what's the state of the art in estimating waves from satellite data.
Thanks a lot.
I would actually ask you to say, would you be more interested in wave height, wave frequency, or both? And as Peter was mentioning, an average or a long time estimate, or point-wise accurate estimate of wave height and frequency?
Well, I'm not sure yet, because yes, everything. But it's more like, very often when we have problems, you have challenges, it's really bad weather, and often the measurement instruments fail. So having a satellite backup system could be a very good way to add some redundancy on your barriers to failure here, because you don't send people out there often when it's too bad weather, and that is more and more relevant as the aquaculture move offshore, away from the near shore. It will be increasingly important to have a backup system to actually know the status of your farm when you're not having people out there. So regarding waves, it was more like a general question, to what degree the technology has been used so far. Because of course you have NextOcean boys out there, and you have good prediction models, and you have good the meteorological people have a good overview, but sometimes they don't work, and sometimes the weather gets too strange or too bad. So a satellite could be a good security system. Yeah, just some open thoughts.
Indeed, as we're involved in another project where the same requirements, more or less different scope of same requirements of measurements from wave height for offshore wind energies, wind energy farms where we're popping in. And okay, the problem then with satellite data is the temporal frequency, because if you're talking about for extreme events that take place at a very specific time, you probably it's hard to align that with the availability of satellite data. There is some research work being done also using GNSSR to measure significant wave height that could complement a bit that and improve a bit the temporal resolution. But typically now, I don't, again, I'm not, that's not my technical field, but I don't know if the accuracy of the measurements from satellite for the significant wave height are good enough to be assimilated then to in a prediction model or forecast model. But typically that's the setup that you'll see when the satellite data is good enough, but the temporal resolution of that satellite data is not good enough, then it's basically, it will be assimilated by a prediction model so it will help improve a prediction model that can give you that temporal resolution that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But again, that's something to
That's why I asked the frequencies, because I think a lot of services will depend on what frequency or temporal resolution you will be able to provide the service, and so yeah.
Indeed,
yeah.
I can tell you for this project, for the Atlantic Regional Initiative sponsored by ESA, for offshore wind energy farms, we are using model forecasts and not satellite based one.
Yeah, and these are not geostationary satellites, I guess. These are
not geostationary. No, typically geostationary satellites have a very low resolution and are not able to resolve wave fields.
Yeah, they're further out, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are typically polar satellites between 400 and 1,000 something kilometers.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Akan. We are 4 minutes into 12 o'clock PT time, Portuguese time, and UK time, 1 o'clock CT. Is there any other urgent questions that someone in the audience would like to put? If not, and I don't see any hands raising or any questions popping up in the chat, we'll wrap up here on the webinar. Just maybe quick, Peter, maybe you can remind us when can people expect co-design workshops, the activities in that area to start happening?
The first workshop is on the 20th of January next year, and we will be inviting people over the next week or so before Christmas. So yeah, we have a few people in mind, but yeah, if you would be happy and willing to be a part of that process, we'd be very appreciative of having you there. And then so yeah, please fill out that form on the website, and then we include you in the plans for that. Yeah, we'll give you the precise details about where the locations are, but likely to be Plymouth, Lisbon, Rhodes, perhaps. Yes, other places are possible, but probably online from other places. So yeah, we'll be reaching out over the next week or so to get the final details for that. It'll be happening on the morning of that Thursday, the 20th of January.
Okay, so be tuned for that. You are capable of participating in that, so you're able to participate in that. Peter was kind enough to put all the different links to how you can contact us, how you can reach out to NextOcean. Please be sure to do that. Don will be thrilled and happy to answer. And that's all on our side. So we'll be wrapping up, and thanks a lot for watching, and be tuned for more news from NextOcean.
If everyone wanted to put their camera on for the last minute,
yes, please,
and just have a little wave, then we'd be very, very happy to see your faces.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.